Hey everyone, and happy Wednesday to you. I'm Jill the Wandering Stamper. Today we are making a super cute hidden pocket fun fold card. Boys, say that 10 times fast. And we'll be doing one Christmas card, and then I'm going to show you a couple of samples that aren't Christmas cards. This fun fold is really unique and really cool. And when I saw it, I knew I had to learn how to make it. I've made several of them now. They're super simple once you know how, and I think you're going to like it. So let's go ahead and take a moment to turn the camera down and we'll get started. Thanks so much for joining me today. All right. Here is what we are going to be using today. We're going to be using the Peaceful Seasons photopolymer stamp set. We're not going to use the dies on this, but the dies are fabulous that go with this. But we are going to use some sentiments from that. And then we're going to use the nested essential dies. If you don't have these are such a great go-to die set that you can use all year round, and we'll be using this small one right here, but I just wanted to show you how great these are. I have mine on a magnetic sheet so I can pull them off easy. So those are our dies, and then I'm trying to find a clean spot to put this stuff on. And then we're going to be using some of the cherry cobbler and gold satin ribbon. Love this ribbon. It really speaks holidays. It coordinates really well with this little piece of designer series paper. And I got that from the Iconic Celebrations paper pack. Look, I have used this already so much. But this is a paper pack that has so many different holidays, but also lots of things you can use year round. So we're going to use that. And I'm going to have to put it in an envelope. Another great option for this card is to use the paper from the Take a Bow stamp set, because that's also got some great examples of what you could use with this particular card. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But we are going to be using this piece. And then we're going to use the Painted Trees 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to show you a fun way to use that. So we'll be using that to create our sort of designer series paper. And I'm pairing up my colors, garden green, some gold metallic paper, whisper white or basic white, and then of course this little piece. They all pair really nicely together. And then we're going to be using crumb cake, old olive, and cherry cobbler inks. And then finally, our embellishments are the pecan pie and clear ribbon adhesive back dots. So these dots are really pretty. They have a little sparkle, but there's like a little kind of plaid-y, ribbony design in the background. So they're really neat. So we'll be using those. So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, I'm going to use some mini dimensionals and some glue dots as well. Or some regular dimensionals, I should say, and some glue dots as well. So we're going to start out with our card base. Our card base is 5.5 by 9 3/4, so you are going to want to use your arm on your paper cutter for this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the 5.5 inches, and then 9 3/4 inches. Okay. And then while we have our paper on here, we're going to do 2 scores. We're going to do one score line at 4 1/4 inches. And then we're going to do another one at 8.5 inches. Okay, so we're going to set that aside, and we're going to also cut 2 more pieces of garden green. We're going to cut one at 3.5 by 5. So I'm just going to cut this at 5 inches. And then 3.5. I've got too many things on my little teeny tiny table. 3.5 by 5. So cut my 3.5. And then on this 3.5 piece, you're also going to score at 1/4 inch. So I'm going to score it over here on this side because it's just easier. I'm right-handed, so it's easier to hold that and do it this way. All right, so we're going to set that aside. And then we're going to do another piece that is 4 1/8 by 5 inches. So we've got our 5 inches right there. So now I'm going to put it at 4 1/8. okay? And this larger piece is going to get scored again at 1/4 inch, but we're gonna do it on both ends. So I'm gonna rotate it around and do it one more time. All right, and then you're also going to need your gold piece, which is gonna be 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So thankfully that is 5 3/8 because I am almost out of the sheet. By 4 1/8. All right, and that's gonna layer on the front of the card. And then you're going to need your piece for the very front. Now I've gone ahead and embossed mine already because you need the larger stamping cut and emboss machine, and I didn't want to have it taking up all the space on the camera. So I went ahead and already embossed it, but you want to cut that at 4 by 5 1/4, okay? And then you want a piece for the top of the inside of the card, which is going to be 2 5/8 by 4 3/4. So that has already been cut and embossed. I embossed that ahead of time. Then you're going to want a piece of basic white for the inside where you're going to put your message, and that's going to be 3 inches by 4 3/4. So we've got that. And then finally, you want your a 1 by 5 1/4 inch piece for your side pocket. So let's see, 5 1/4 and 1 inch. I'm gonna cut it using my 1 inch on this side so I can just hold it a little better. Now this little piece is small, so if you ever have a really big problem with doing this when they're really small, you can just put a little piece of a little piece of repositionable tape like what you would use on your dies and hold it in place. But I think I've got that. So 1 by 5 1/4, and that's all you're cutting. All right, let me get all of my scraps out of the way. And I'm going to show you how to make this card. So once you have all of the pieces cut, it's all pretty simple. So we're going to go ahead and assemble the card base first, and then while that's setting, I'll show you what we're going to do to the embossed pieces. So you have your score line at 4 1/4 and 8 1/2. So that 4 1/4 basically creates your basic card size right there. And then you've got this other score line. You're going to fold that in and give that a good crease. And this is your little side pocket. That's what you cut that 1 by, 1 by 5 1/4 piece for. See how nice that looks. So now that we've folded this, I'm going to go ahead and put this piece on because I want it to be nice and set before we do the inside. So I'm going to add a little glue, just like so. I panicked for a second. I thought I didn't turn my camera on, and I was just talking to myself. So I am glad you're here, and I'm glad I didn't have to start that over. I've done that before. I've started what I thought I started a video and never hit play, so that would be bad. Okay, so I've added my 1 by 5 1/4 inch strip here. I've made sure everything's burnished well. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to show you these two pieces. So you have a smaller one and a larger one. The larger one has that 1/4 inch score line on both sides. The smaller one only has the 1/4 inch score line on one side. And I'm just going to crease this a little so it's easier to see. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my liquid glue, and I'm using the liquid glue because I can put a nice thin stream of it on here. You want to make sure that your glue stays where it needs to stay, right where that 1/4 inch section is, okay? So now that that's got glue on it, I'm going to go ahead and line that up with my other piece. So those 2 1/4 inch pieces are now glued together, okay? Now you could have also just put the glue on the other piece, but I just happened to grab the little piece and put the glue there, okay? So now that creates your inside card. And so now you've got the other side that has also a score line, all right? And I'm going to give that a good crease. with the bone folder, and you're going to have it so that there's a larger section over here, and then of course the 2 1/4-inch seams are already glued together over here. Okay, so that's how it's going down on your card like this. So we're going to very carefully again only put adhesive right here on this 1/4-inch mark, which is a great use of liquid glue because you can kind of be exact where you want to put it. All right, and I'm going to straighten it out a little, and you want to be very sure to get this as close to the center of the card so that you have equal amounts on the top and bottom. So get that as close as you can, and once you're happy with it, just butt it up to the edge seam of the card and then close the card down on it and give it a good press. I will actually use my bone folder a lot of the time and just do it that way. Now when you open it, see it's attached to the inside of the card, and I'm just going to give it another press. I just want to make sure it's nice and pressed, and when we have this all set, it's going to open like this, see? So we're going to set this aside for a moment and let this kind of dry a little, and we're going to talk about the rest of the pieces. So as I mentioned, I went ahead and embossed these 2 panels ahead of time, and I used the beautiful Painted Trees 3D embossing folder. It's large, so what I did is I centered the larger piece between the 2 trees on the left and ran them through. And then for this narrower piece, I decided to kind of center it on the tallest tree and run it through that way. So you get a really nice texture on this, and it's perfect for coloring. So this is how we're going to color it. So I've grabbed my old olive stamp pad. You want to get a nice little surface covering because you are going to make a little mess, and I'm grabbing a sponge dauber. I've got 2. I've got one for crumb cake, which we're going to use in a moment, and one for my greens. So I'm going to just dab a little on my sponge dauber, and I'm going to dab off a little because I want to make sure I don't put too much on there. And then I'm just going to brush it across the trees. And because it's a 3D embossing folder, it picks up the different heights of the 3D, and so you get different color variations, which makes it look really super cool. So I'm just going over this a few times until I'm happy with it. You can add more ink if you want to give it more color in certain areas, but I just kind of layer it on there until I'm happy. That looks pretty good to me, and I'm just ignoring this little, there's a few little pieces right up here, and they're actually part of the bigger tree, and I'm just going to ignore those. I'm not going to pay any attention to them because I don't really want those to stand out. So that looks good. So now I'm going to do the same thing over here with these trees, and I'm just going to put that color on there. Put as much or as little as you want. It's kind of relaxing. And it's super simple. It only takes a few minutes to do this technique, and it really pops a wow factor punch, don't you think? So that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So now I'm just going to rub this off a little bit to get most of the color off because I am going to use it for other greens later on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close this up, and now I'm going to grab my crumb cake, and I'm going to be first, I'm going to ink this up, and I'm going to brush it along the edges to kind of make it look burnished. So that's all you do, little light, just as much as you want, just little light strokes. If you need to ink up your dauber again, do so, but you just keep doing that until you're happy with the shade. So that looks pretty good, and then I'm going to go ahead and just lightly run it around the edge of the trees a little, just to kind of look aged a little bit. And then I just kind of look at it and see if I need to add anything, soften anything up. So that looks pretty good to me. So there we go. That's it. Pretty easy. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to do this other one because we want it to look a little bit a little bit the same, and this piece is going to go on the inside. So we're going to kind of carry our outside to the inside of the card and give it that cohesiveness. So I'm just doing the very same thing, just like that. And then I'm just going to lightly run this around in the center. And because by now most of the color's off, we don't have to worry about it being too dark. So that looks good. So now I'm gonna rub that color off as much as possible so I can use it later for other colors. All right, so we're gonna close that. And then the last thing I like to do, and you know me, I love my Wink of Stella, my clear Wink of Stella. So I'm gonna go ahead and just lightly brush some clear Wink of Stella just over the trees. I like how it gives it a little bit of a shimmer, so it kind of looks a little frosty. I just opened this one, so it's a little bit dry. I'm having to juice it up a little bit. There we go. So you just rub some, if you like, rub some Wink of Stella. I also have some Dazzling Diamonds glitter because I kind of bought a hoard of it when it was discontinued, and I think that would look really pretty as well. But this looks really nice. So that looks good. And now I'm going to do this one. And all I'm doing is just kind of brushing it on. And it just gives it that little teeny bit of sparkle. Makes it look a little frosty. And you can never have too much frost on your holiday cards. So once this thing gets really primed, it's going to come out a lot faster. You don't normally need to spend so much time, but I just opened this one. All right, so that gave it just a slight amount of glimmer. I know you can't see that on camera, but it is super pretty. All right, that's done. So now we can go ahead and start layering. Let's go ahead and do our stamping, and we have one piece to die cut. So I've grabbed Cherry Cobbler because I want it to match my ribbon. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab the Wishing You and Yours stamp. I'm going to ink that up nicely and just stamp that here, and we're going to die cut it. And then my other stamp says A Season of Wonder and Happiness. So I'm going to ink that up and try to get this straight. Let me stand up and see if I can do it that way. You know I always have a hard time with this. Okay, I did it straight. That's good. All right, so that is our stamping. And it's great when you can create cards that don't have a ton of stamping, because that helps you make a lot of cards quicker. I do love stamping cards and coloring, but when I'm making a lot of cards, or I'm going to be making a few dozen cards for Christmas or whatever, when I can make those quicker cards, I'm happy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this little die. It fits perfectly right over Wishing You and Yours. Get it as straight as possible, and I'm going to just put a piece of repositionable tape on it and run this through my little mini die cutter. Okay, get this out of the way. Get this ugly paper out of the way. All right. This is the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. Love it because you can use it over and over and over again. All right, let's get our die plates out of the way. So we've got our piece here. So let's go ahead and finish putting this card together. So I'm going to grab that base that we originally created, and we're going to go ahead and put this part together now. So you need to pay close attention to how I do this, because you don't want to make any mistakes and mess it up. So you're going to want some tear and tape. This is going to be your best friend for this. So what I like to do is you want the tear and tape to only be on the little edges right here and right here, because you want this card to slide back and forth easily, right? So the way I like to do it is I'll grab a little scrap of paper, and you can make a little tick mark if you want, but I will put it just higher than where it needs to be. And I'll actually use my take your pick tool a lot of time and just make a little line so I can see it. And then I'll do the same thing over here. And this is where, remember when I told you to make sure you put your card evenly? That helps you with your spacing for your tape. So now that I kind of know where my tape needs to stay within, I'm going to put it on my silicone craft sheet, because I'm not going to put this whole piece on the cardstock because it would be too far. So I'm kind of hanging it off the edge of the cardstock a little bit, just like that. And then I'm just going to tear it off. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm just using my little mark I made with my take your pick tool and putting that right there, tearing it off. That's it. That's all you need. And this tear and tape is super strong. So now I'm going to peel this off. And so you can see that there's a good bit hanging off. And the great thing about that is you can just overlap it back onto your cardstock so it doesn't show. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And pull that down so it does the same thing. And so now I can go ahead and close it up just like that. And look, my card slides within it really nicely. So I like to take my bone folder, just give it a good press. And then you also want to get your bone folder, and you can do this ahead of time. I always do it after I glue it, but I kind of break up the fibers a little to give it that little kind of a bump right there, and that helps your card slide a little bit better. Like that. So that piece is done. So once that's done, then you want to go ahead and open your card, use your bone folder, and run it right along the edge of this little panel. And you're creating your own little score line. And then you can fold your card up like that and give it a good burnish. Okay? So now that is your inside card, and when you close it, it'll pop out. All right? Simple, right? So let's go ahead and finish the rest of our layers. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that larger piece, and we're going to layer it onto our gold. And I'm just going to grab my liquid glue. Is everybody getting into the holiday spirit yet? I hope you are. All right, so that is on there. Look how pretty that is. So I'm going to flip it over, press it down really good. Sometimes it takes just a moment for that metallic paper to stick because it is glossy. So I just flip it over and give it a good press. Now I'm going to add some more glue to the back. Make sure my card is the right direction. I'm going to pop this onto the front. And we just have a very small margin to line up. Okay, now press that down. We're going to go ahead and add our very inside greeting that we stamped on. I love trees, so I really enjoyed making this card. I'm probably going to make many more of these. Okay. See? Isn't that great? All right, now we have this other piece that we colored, and that is going to go right here on the front. So I'm just going to add my liquid glue. And, whoops, turn it over, Jill. Gonna add that right here. just like so. So now if this bothers you, that you can see this little bit of white, you can probably move this in a little bit more. It doesn't bother me one single bit. And once it's in the card, whoops, make sure that all your pieces are stuck down, but then once it's in the card, you don't really notice it. But you do want to make sure, I didn't put enough glue down. Make sure that you have glue on the corners of your paper, because if you don't, they will pop up. So that one didn't have a glue down there. So there we go. So now we want to decorate the front. So to decorate this front, we went ahead and already stamped Wishing You and Yours and popped that onto this little shape from the Nested Essentials. But this is where I'm going to grab my ribbon. Where did I put you? All right, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. So I'm going to just grab a little bit. And what I want to do is just kind of make a little tag. It's going to go like this. So just grab my scissors and cut it. Just like that. And then I'm going to use a glue dot to anchor it in place. I find that's just the easiest way to anchor things. So I'm going to grab a glue dot. Find my middle. I did not cut that very pretty, did I? Let's do that again. There we go. You know why? Because I'm using my sticky scissors to cut that ribbon. Alright. So I'm going to grab a glue dot. And that's just going to help me keep this ribbon where I want it. And now I can just kind of turn it a little bit, just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to grab one more glue dot to the back, and I'm going to anchor that onto my card. And now we're going to grab some dimensionals for the back of this piece. I panicked earlier because somehow I buried my dimensionals in my stack of paper, and I could not find my dimensionals for a good 20 minutes, and I tore my workspace apart looking for it, thinking, oh my gosh, that was my last sheet of dimensionals. I just ordered some more, and they were between 2 packs of paper, so crisis averted. Alright, so now that I have the dimensionals on there, I'm just going to center that right here. Oops, and let's try to get it straight. Okay, just like so. Alright, and then I'm going to finish it off with these, and I feel like these gold ones kind of bring out the gold paper and the crumb cake that we used. So I'm just going to line up 3 of them. So a big one and 2 smaller ones, one under the other, as straight as I can. I always struggle with straight. Whoop. And you can take your, you can reposition it before you really push it down hard. There we go. All right. I could spend all day trying to fix that. Okay, so there we go. There's our card. Simple. It didn't take us very long to make it. It says Wishing You and Yours, and when you open it up, it pops up a season of wonder and happiness. Love it. I love this card. I love how the tree has a slight shimmer. You could add ornaments to it. You could put a sentiment right here. Really super pretty. You could actually add another piece of paper over here, cardstock, and decorate it, or a piece of this plaid. I mean, there's so many things you could do with it. So there's the first sample. Let me show you what else I made. So I decided I haven't used the Friends for Life stamp set for a little bit, so I wanted to do one with that. So here's my card. Love this stamp set. It's so much fun. The dies are fun. The stamps are amazing. And the designer series paper, I mean, you couldn't ask for more color in designer series paper. I mean, look at all these colors. It's just insane. So this is the card I created. I saw this layout actually online and thought, ooh, I'm going to make that. So it says best wishes on the front. I embossed this little panel of paper, which I just basically made it an inch smaller, both horizontally and vertically. So instead of 4 by 5 1/4, I made it 3 by 4 1/4. And that fit perfectly. And I went ahead and ran it through the circles, dotted circles 3D embossing folder. Super pretty. And then I used another of the Nested Essentials dies for the best wishes. And then look inside, so cute. And all I did was add a couple of heart stamps to the inside so I can make that sort of a kind of a note card. So there's that second sample. And then the third sample, I decided to use the Unbounded Love, and this is designer series paper from, let me grab it here. It's actually a holiday paper. It's the Regal Winter designer series paper. This paper is so pretty, and it's just very jewel tone florals in the back's equally pretty. You could use it all year round, and it doesn't have to be used as a Christmas or holiday paper. So I decided to use it as birthday card paper. So I paired Blackberry Bliss with Petal Pink. Petal Pink isn't even a color that's listed on the back of the package for one of the colors that matches, but the shades in this had Petal Pink in them, so I decided to go ahead and use that. I did some die cutting, and I used the Petal Pink and White ribbon duo to create my little tag here and some embellishments. And then I used the Distress Patterns designer series paper, which I thought went really well with it, for the inside. And it says happy birthday, may all your wishes come true, which is funny because I handwrite that in a lot of cards and online, so I thought that was funny that it has a stamp that says that. So there is sample number 3. So there's a super cool hidden pocket pop-up card, simple to make. It really doesn't take long. Just lay out your card front any way you wish, and then the inside you just want to pull the front to the inside to keep it all cohesive. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you don't already, so that you get notification of all of these videos. And also don't forget to click on my link below. It takes you to my blog page, which has all of my cutting and scoring dimensions and measurements for that, and then also a link to my online store if there's any supplies that you need. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching it. I hope you get a chance to craft today and have a fabulous rest of the week. I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.